White people, we have pain that needs processing. Hi, I'm Dr. Hilary Agro, anthropologist and community organizer. I help people reconnect with their humanity, you know, the thing deep down inside each of us that capitalists want us to forget exists. All right, so my fellow whites, you're in pain. I know that because I am too. Your life is difficult. We are actually not talking about this pain enough. Well, some people are, but we need some different conversations because those ones aren't going anywhere good. If you're willing to for a moment, I want you to feel into your ancestry. Roman slavery, the Black Plague, feudalism, internal colonialism, the witch burnings, the Inquisition, the Spanish flu, World War I and II, and all the other wars where peasant and working class people have been sent to die so a handful of assholes can hold on to power. What have I missed? I'm sure there's tons more, and examples from your own ancestry, please share in the comments. If it's not too painful, I know there's some really gnarly stuff in our history. As somebody from the Irish diaspora, I can attest to that. So we do know all of this. We know what happened to our ancestors in a sort of vague sense. Yet we also still wonder why white people are so messed up, so hollowed out, so lost that we grasp and cling to the cultures of others like it's oxygen and we can't breathe. So confused and angry that we're easy marks for authoritarian men telling us that immigrants and trans people are why we feel bad. Because we've been suffering for so long that we're that desperate to have someone, anyone, validate our pain, even if we end up abandoning our own humanity in the process. The worst people that you know are in extraordinary amounts of pain. I think this is a reality that we really need to contend with. It's true, when you look at their behavior, it's never the behavior of a happy person. Does Elon Musk seem like he's totally well-adjusted and living a good, fulfilling, happy human life? No, he's a fucking disaster. When we don't process our generational pain, it lingers in the collective bodies of our various diasporas. It lashes out. It wants to find a target. It wants to find a reason to justify its own existence. Because we are collectively ignoring it, we're not properly processing it and grieving it and contending with it and really repairing what led to this pain happening, you know, looking at history and learning from it and fixing things, fixing the conditions so this stuff doesn't happen again. We're not doing any of that, so we're just ignoring it collectively, but our bodies know. Our bodies know the difference, which is why we feel so gaslit by how society just keeps chugging along despite all of this, and why people are so susceptible to white supremacist and other right-wing messaging telling them, yeah, your pain does exist. It's because of those people, it's because of women, and et cetera, et cetera. Because even though those explanations for the pain are wrong and are obviously harmful, at least they're validating the pain. I know as well as you do that there is something missing from white privilege discourse. I'm not the hugest fan of it myself, even though I understand why people use this discourse, because in a relative sense, relatively, white people do have privileges over people of color, especially Black people in our society, because it's a white supremacist society. But the story can't end there, because when it ends there, something doesn't feel right in the bodies of white people who are suffering from mostly class-based oppression, also gender oppression and various other forms of structural violence. Something doesn't sit right. And so when we don't attend to that pain, people's pain is easily weaponized by the ones who want the system to continue. And here's where most people would usually say because the system benefits them, but my hot take is actually that it does not benefit them. I don't think that capitalism benefits capitalists overall. On a relative sense, again, as in they're safer than the people at the bottom, yes, sure. But actually absolutely benefiting them? No. Again, is our boy happy? No, it's a miserable existence to be at the top of a hierarchy that you could be overturned and crumble at any second. That's terrifying. It's not an existence where the people at the top feel supported and safe in their community. They have a community that loves them and cares about them as a human being. They're not participating in rituals and songs and music and dance and art and the things that make us human. They don't have children around who love them. They don't have a sense of connection with the earth. Capitalism strips people from all of those things that make us human, and replaces them with just a false sense of security while they run away from the fear and deep, deep longing that is always in the human heart when you don't have access to those things. The system doesn't benefit the people at the top on an objective sense, which I think is really important to talk about for the same reason it's important to talk about how patriarchy doesn't benefit men. Sorry if that word is alienating, a system of structural stuff that gender, oh God. I don't want to alienate people, but sometimes you got to use the word. Sorry, I'm going to use the word patriarchy, but it's not in a blaming men sense. It's understanding that there's this system that has certain expectations for men and women, and it's very control-based, and it's policing of gender. That doesn't benefit men. White supremacy doesn't benefit white people because we're miserable. Capitalism doesn't benefit capitalists, and colonization doesn't benefit settlers. Again, the relative sense of, did my ancestors who came over here to escape the Irish genocide benefit from not being genocided and being able to get land here in Canada? Yes, that is a benefit. But overall, on a systemic scale, colonialism is destroying everything. So yeah, this is my side rant about these things not being actually beneficial, but it's relevant. So when our generational trauma and our pain is not tended to, we become easy marks for people who want to take advantage of our pain in order to sell us things and sell us both actual physical products and also lifestyles that, again, don't benefit them, but do serve the goals that they have to accumulate and own and commodify. Our pain is the fuel that keeps this system running. And this pain will just keep accumulating the longer that we go without dealing with it. We will keep lashing out and blaming others and wanting to use force and coercion to control everything around us. We'll continue to blame individual working class people and voters for their constrained choices under a system that is pumped with billions of dollars worth of propaganda to make people make those choices. More cops, more prisons, more bombs, more plastic garbage and screens and dissociation. That's what we're gonna get. That's all that's in our future until we actually deal with the pain that we collectively carry within us. So let's free ourselves from these chains and start tending to our wounds. You are a whole, beautiful human being who was not put on this earth to suffer. You can be, if you choose to accept the mission, one of the most powerful people in your lineage, doing what your ancestors were never able to do. You can choose to reconnect with the earth, to find support, to face the pain head on, to grieve, and to build a new world. Let's do it together. Come on. It'll be fun. I've got so many videos for you. It's a non-judgmental approach to decolonization. You've been waiting for it, you're ready for it. We're all ready for it. We're all so ready to stop the blaming and the infighting and the this and that and the left and right and Republicans and Democrats, and it's all mess because we are human beings, and that is the thing that we need to reconnect to. And as long as we're doing team this and that, then we're not doing reconnection. My approach personally is to try to take a non-judgmental and curious look at how we can connect and go deeper and actually deal with this stuff, finally. Please like this video and subscribe if this sounds good to you. It helps to fight against the billionaire-funded algorithms. We all know how this stuff works. Leave a comment and whatnot. It is genuinely helpful to me. My motivations are that I have 2 beautiful children and I would like them to have a livable planet to grow up in. And the current direction of our society is concerning to me. So that's why I do this work. But I also do it because I love people. I have a genuine love for humans that almost feels like, why do I feel weird about just admitting that? I love people. People are so interesting. It's obviously why I'm an anthropologist. I am a 4-field anthropologist. That means I studied all 4 of the subfields of anthropology as we do it in North America, which is linguistics, archaeology, biological anthropology, and cultural anthropology. And I love all of it. I lean towards the cultural anthropology side, but humans are so interesting. We're so interesting. We're really complicated apes that learn to like walk on 2 feet and make fart jokes. Like, it's so great. Humans are really cool, but I feel weird sometimes about just admitting that and talking about my love for humanity because everyone's so anti-human these days. And it's, I think, counterproductive, because if we don't get in touch with our love for humanity and our love for ourselves, then what are we even doing any of this for? What are we fighting for? Like, I know that the pain gets in the way sometimes to like look at children and process and think about the world that we're creating for them is so painful that there's this epidemic of people who refuse to engage with children, who say they don't like kids, who don't want to ever be around them, who don't ever want to consider them. Because yeah, it is painful to look a kid in the eye and be like, oh no, what have we done? But again, if we don't just deal with that pain, we're going to continue to just dissociate and be disconnected, and that's no fun. It's more fun when you're feeling connected and good, and connected to earth, and connected to community, and you're singing and dancing and all this stuff. It feels really, really good. I think it can be hard for white people sometimes to really engage with the beauty of humanity all around us, and the art and the culture and the dance and the cuisine and all that kind of thing, because it reminds us of the deep, deep loss that we have from our cultures that we left behind in Europe, like specifically people in the North American or Australian, New Zealand diaspora. These places where Europeans have moved and where society has been completely taken over by settler colonialism, it's stripped us of culture. Our culture was sacrificed on an altar of domination, and we received very little in return for it because, yeah, everybody's miserable. So it can be really painful in some ways to engage with cultures that still have the beauty of their original forms, or even new forms. Like Black American culture has tons of new, syncretic, traditional, and vibrantly contemporary forms of art and culture, because they never quite lost their sense of culture and connection because they were never allowed into whiteness, so they never were given the chance to sacrifice it. So that's why they make incredible art and music today, because they still have a connection with their sense of humanity, even though, you know, white people tried to strip it from them. Haha, guess what? Joke was on us. We ended up stripping it from ourselves. That's kind of the ultimate cosmic joke and irony of colonialism, is by trying so hard to deny other people their own humanity, we stripped it from ourselves. Whoopsie. Karma. It's also why there's some diasporas, like the Irish diaspora and the Polish diaspora and Russia and a few different places, where they have scraps of culture still left, you know? Ireland still has many, many vibrant forms of culture despite being colonized. And the Irish diaspora here in Canada, and, you know, maybe in the US too, is trying to reclaim our language and our ancestry and our history. And having access to that is really, really powerful. There are many other European diasporas doing this too. I know that England, you guys are kind of ground zero and have a hard time with it, but that's okay, because paganism exists everywhere and it's accessible to anybody who's from anywhere, because everybody has pagan ancestors, because paganism is, okay, without saying anything that's gonna get me eaten alive by the people that I tend to spend time with, and knowing that this is a complicated thing to say and that you can tear it apart or whatever, paganism and indigeneity are, I'm gonna have a fucking panic attack. They're the same thing. Oh, I'm gonna get canceled by the people who know that it's more complicated than just saying that, but it's a YouTube video. All right, I'm getting hungry. I gotta go feed the body and, you know, do some stretching and whatnot. Shouldn't have put my leg up there. I love you. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, like, tell me what you had for dinner yesterday. Oh, join the Patreon too. There's a group chat that you can join so we can actually talk about these issues and you can get some support for your decolonizing journey. There are patrons only videos. My PhD dissertation is on there. It's 300 pages. It's really good. You could also go watch the video that I made about it, because Let's be real, very few people are reading 300 pages of an academic treatise, but it is there if you want it. And most importantly, by joining the Patreon, you're supporting my work and helping me to continue to do this. I don't have a ton of income, but the Patreon helps me enormously to make these videos possible, because then I don't have to take other work and I can just focus on yapping at the people and with the people, not just at. Maybe you don't think that I'm yapping at you. We're yapping together. A little yapathon. But Dr. Agro, healing is really hard, and this stuff is all really difficult to deal with. But I've heard that psychedelic plant medicines, such as this and this, could maybe help me in that journey. Do you have any thoughts about that? Oh, I have a million thoughts about that. I'm so glad you asked, because I am also a plant medicine educator and a journey curator, which is a thing that I do where I consult with people to help them set up their own psychedelic medicine journeys for healing success. That is a topic that it has proven very difficult to make videos about on any platform, because all of these platforms love to ban me and demonetize videos and take videos down because they don't want us talking about plant medicines. So that's really frustrating. But I do have a video on psychedelic plant medicine, and even better, you can work with me one-on-one. Here is the address. I'll also put a link in the bio. Because yes, plant medicines are enormously helpful for healing. They work. Human beings have been using them for thousands and thousands of years, and there are many different ways that you can engage with them that are super helpful. They're also very, very powerful tools that shouldn't be used lightly. So the guidance that I give is in order to facilitate people having a more beneficial time and not a horrible time. The challenge for today's video, challenge time, it's challenge time. Challenge time, challenge time, it's challenge time, challenge time. Today's challenge is to learn how to say thank you in one of your ancestral languages. If you are 100% English with nothing from any other country, then learn to say I'm sorry in Irish. Just kidding, just kidding. I mean, you know, maybe actually learn that. That would actually be cool if you could do that like without shame and learn how to say that to Irish people. They'd probably think it's really funny. It's tabronerm, by the way, tabronerm. Anyways, if you have ancestry from any other place, learn how to say thank you in that language. And with that knowledge, you can use that to say thank you to trees and ancestors and the wind and the sky and the sun and the ground and the animals around you. And you're getting in touch via your language with a little piece of your ancestry. And who knows, that might spark some curiosity about what other parts of your ancestry you might be able to get in touch with, such as rituals, songs, community, language diasporas, music, art. There's all sorts of things that could be awaiting you, but it just starts with that one little step. So please learn how to say thank you, and then tell me what the language is. And not that I want a bunch of people saying thank you to me in the comments, but tell me how to say thank you in your language, because I'm really curious. I want to know. I know like 5 or so languages how to say thank you, and yeah, I want to hear some more. Okay, I love you. Don't let the bastards grind you down. You're a human being. You're a beautiful jewel. You're a gem. You're a gem of a human being. I don't even know you, but I fundamentally believe that about every human being, so you count. Okay, bye-bye. Adios. Slan. I'm gonna go see a documentary tonight called Day of My Death. It looks really interesting. Maybe check it out yourself, or go watch Boots Riley's new movie, I Love Boosters. It's so good. Has anyone seen I Love Boosters? Oh my God, it's so good.